Hey, how's it going? Matt McNeil coming to you from the garage. You might recognize this guy if you look at any of my stuff. This is Claude, and I was waiting to finish him until I got a shirt, so I ran to Goodwill this morning and I bought a shirt. And this is pretty close to done. There's a couple more things I'm going to do to him, but I wanted to talk about sort of finishing things. And for me, it's sort of God is in the details. Just in regard to, even if you don't know the story of what happened to this guy, I like there to be at least some semblance of a narrative so that I could justify what these wounds are or how he died or whatever. So clearly he's been clawed down his face. And if you notice, actually, I'm checking it out on this video here, but see how they line up? I think that's awesome. Because they're clearly not attached. But you get the sense of, just some sort of scratch trauma. And then his shirt got dragged to the side as well. And in finishing him, one of the things I didn't want to do is I didn't want to put too much blood on him before I got the shirt on him. Because, there's a lot of stuff going on here. And I don't want just to soup him up to the point where you don't see any of the detail or the art. Can we call it art? Any of the artistry here, just in terms of what's going on, and one of the things that gives you that is this contrast between flesh and blood, and even within the blood, the redder blood and the darker blood. And if anybody's interested in how, that you can actually tint either permablood, which I think is a fantastic product. I don't have a dog in that hunt. I think everybody that uses it pretty much universally loves it. It's fantastic. So if you're not using permablood for glossy, reddish, sort of fresh blood, you should give it a day in court. A little bit goes a long way, which is awesome. When it's thin, it's kind of a yellow blood, and when it's thick, it's kind of a blue blood. So I don't know what they're doing to achieve those colors, but it's spot on every single time, and I love it. So anyway, you can use, FW inks or whatever. Be very, very light with your inks because those inks will make that blood like super dark immediately. So just slowly mix it in to get the color that you want. And the one thing I will say is a lot of this blood will dry. Like if you get thicker globs, it'll dry a lot darker than that when it's done. So anyway, so if you put a little bit of black or a little bit of, ochre or some other color into it to shift the tone or the contrast of that blood, just know that it's probably going to be a shade or two darker than whatever you mix into it. And it gets color, takes on color pretty well. So anyway, I digress. But one of the things is like just the contrast between the flesh and the blood. If this were all red, it would just look like, it would be great, but it would just look like hamburger, and to a point where I think you would lose a little bit of the effectiveness of what's going on here. I think that the emotion, the scream, all of that stuff would kind of be moot because it would just be so overwhelmingly gory. Not that I guess not that he isn't already, but the other thing I want to talk about is I buy this shirt. I very specifically I could have gone in my closet or ordered probably something on Amazon, but I wanted to see it in person because you have to think about what a shirt is going to look like with blood on it. You don't want like a black shirt because then you're never going to see the blood. And I also didn't want a white shirt because I felt like the white shirt would draw away from his face. James Cameron one time said that, your eye is always drawn to the brightest thing in a frame, in a movie frame. And that's the case here. You don't want that shirt to be the star of the show. And you also don't want to soak it with so much blood that now the shirt is completely red, which now is in concert with the face. You want something that's going to accentuate what's going on here, sort of frame it so that it pushes your eye to the center of your attention. Even though this isn't a movie or TV, you're still working with compositions and you're working with sort of figuring out how to pull people's eyes towards something, right? And we want people to concentrate on this. And then because of that motion here, We then want them to see this, and then we want them to start inspecting the shirt. So again, try to tell a story with, or I try to tell a story with composition in this regard, because I feel like it's important to be able to, like, you know, I could have just chewed up his face and said, oh yeah, look, it's a bloody dude. Yeah, that's cool. But I also like the idea of being able, if somebody goes, hey man, what happened to him? I can tell you what happened to him, right? He's the lawyer in the horror movie that says, hey, you girls stay here. I'm going to go check out that noise. You know, you know what I mean? And that's why I gave him this hairline. The hairline was a very specific decision, you know, because a lot of times you put a wig on a guy and you just got like a, you know, hey, look at my very normal wig style hairdo. But I felt like he deserved a punched hairline that told us a little bit more about the guy. How old is he? His hair's sort of trimmed, so he's professional-ish. Anyway, and he's wearing a collared shirt rather than a t-shirt. So all of these things, I think, go into telling the story of who this guy is. So anyway, back to technique and things like that. So we've got all the blood, we've got all the stuff, and the shirt's on. So then what I do is I figure out, like, if you watch horror movies, when somebody gets their shirt ripped, or like even crime scene stuff, they're like, nothing is neat. Everything is like ridiculously unkempt and sort of hanging up all over the place. And that's what I wanted here. So, you know, I've stuck a piece of his shirt on him. I've chewed up this collar. I've got it hanging off. Again, because your eye goes to the brightest part of the frame, we're following these claw marks down, right? We're following them in a line. So that was the intention here, is I want this to be this, and then this to be how you view this dude. And while he's drying, I still got another step or two to go. But one of the things that, like, particularly with a guy like this, who's got all this gore and his face is chewed off, it's like, well, where did all of that go, right? Even if it got flung to the side, there would be meat. So there's little chunks of meat in there on his shirt. So it's just another layer of detail. I'll probably come back with this color blood and accentuate those little dark areas so that they stand out, give us some more texture. But the way that I do that is I literally tear up a piece of foam or a sponge into tiny little pieces. Sponges are good. Those, like, sea sponges, like this. Like that. Tear them up into little pieces, and then I soak them in the permablood, and then I just use the permablood as glue to attach them. And again, I'm going to come back with another pass. This darker blood is Gorilla Glue mixed with cardinal flocking and a drop or two of, not even two, let's not say two, a drop of black ink, and maybe a drop of red ink. Just to kind of like make it dark and really vicious, right? So anyway, those little kinds of little details, those nernies that you glue on to something like this, again, give you another level, so that when I see this, and then I start inspecting his shirt, it's like, oh my God, there's like hamburger on him, you know? So yeah, so anyway, it's just another level. Now, the other thing was, this shirt is blue with white stripes, right? And like I said, I didn't want to pull anything that fought with his face, but those white stripes are still pretty bold. And from the front, I didn't want to see, I figured, you know, if you had this kind of damage done to your face, one of the things that you'd want, or one of the things that would happen, is that you would just be soaked in blood, but it may not yet have soaked into the back. Well, when you take permablood, it's going to want to sit basically on the surface like this, right? And even when you brush it in, you can get some really great, like this is probably brushed in, but it's really dark. But the thing is it moves away from his face, you kind of want it to look like it's soaked in there and not sitting on it. So what I did is, before I put the permablood on his shirt, I actually sprayed it down with a water bottle, so that water in the shirt would sort of leach that color into the fabric. And then once I had it kind of up and over his shoulders, I actually sprayed this again so that I didn't have a hard line of blood here, so that I had just sort of like kind of like a weep of blood into the back shoulder there, so that again, you know, depending on what angle you're looking at, still feels like what you're looking at has actually happened. So actually, I'm looking at this side. I probably need to do the same there. So that's a good example. So that's what it looked like prior to me soaking down the other side. And the other thing too is, like, if you want to talk about story, this is the side that would really be nice and gross and probably have more blood on it than that side. So yeah, we'll do that now. That's one of the the benefits of doing a video like this, is taking another look at what you've done in a different way. So sometimes you walk out of the room and walk back in. I've often heard that if you rearrange the furniture in a room, you should stand in the doorway, bend over and look between your knees at the room upside down, and you'll see things that you wouldn't normally see. And the video is kind of the same way for me. It's like a lot of times I'll make these videos and go back and change things just because I've seen something that didn't originally occur to me. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about finishing this kind of thing up, and some of the details and some of the ideas that kind of inspire those details, if anybody's interested. But there he is, and he will be at Mask Fest this year. So come see Claude. He needs some help. Call 911.